I went to college at FAU freshman year, and it's like, first thing I did was like freedom. I'm ready to like go party, hit up the clubs, and go to Fort Lauderdale and like do all the stupid stuff college kids do. So that's what I did. The first few weeks of college, I was out there partying, doing whatever, doing who knows what. One night I was at a club. It was like 2 weeks into school. And I was just kind of like, what am I doing? It like kind of hit me. Like nobody asked me a question, or like, I was just like, what am I doing out here? Like, how is this filling me up? If it's filling me up, why do I need to keep coming back?
That's cool because usually it takes most kids a year or two to get tired of that stuff.
Right.
It took you 2 weeks.
It took me 2 weeks.
Because you had God in your heart, right?
Right.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Pray About It podcast. Today I'm welcome with Trent.
What's up?
Trent's here, guys. I'm trying to film this for a minute now.
Yep.
Yeah, but we're here.
We are.
So
took a while.
Yeah, literally. So what's going on?
Well, not much. Just finished up with school. Got a new job opportunity coming up.
Yeah.
Selling insurance.
What kind of insurance?
Life insurance.
Okay.
Yeah. So got my 215 license. Super pumped about that. It's funny. God really blessed me with that opportunity just in the nick of time. So it was kind of funny how it worked out. But yeah, been good.
That's good.
Yeah.
So I wanted you to come on here, share whatever's on your heart. Obviously, we could start out like maybe what's your testimony? Like, what do you got to share with us?
Yeah. So that's a funny question. So for the longest time, so like I guess just start with upbringing. Grew up in like Christian household. Always went to church on Sundays. And I feel like my faith wasn't really like my own. It was more my parents' faith until like say like middle school. Say is like right when I got saved. But I didn't believe I had a testimony. Because like there was no crazy event in my life, or like I didn't like, I guess you'd quote unquote say like fall off the deep end or something like that and go crazy, and then like I had like this come to Jesus moment.
Was it one of those things where like you only went to church because your parents like made you?
Right.
Yeah.
And then it's funny, so I just didn't think I had a testimony because nothing like wild happened in my life until about 4 months ago. Actually, we were at Victory, and my good friend, Pastor Solomon, who now leads Chell Church, was preaching in one of our series. And he said, your testimony can be that you accepted Jesus, you followed Jesus, and you never looked back. And that like really stuck with me because I was like, wow, that really is my testimony. Like from day one, even like if my parents were the ones bringing me into church, like I always believed, like I never looked back. I always, believed there was God, believed in God, that he had what was best for me.
Yeah.
So it was really cool when he said that. It just kind of hit me.
No, yeah, testimonies are like powerful, whatever it is. Like even if like how you said you feel like you didn't really have one.
Right.
You still coming to God and like explaining that, because in a way like you growing up like in a household that was already like in their faith, like, and you like not really recognizing that when you were little, only doing it because your parents made you, and then you coming to Christ on your own, that's a testimony.
For sure.
Because there's a lot of people that can relate with like growing up being forced to go to church, and then being like, oh, I don't want to do it, yeah. But like that's I feel like that's why a lot of people who grow up in the faith, as they get older, they kind of like drift from it, just because like when you're little and then everything's being like pushed onto you, you're being lectured. You don't like, when you're younger, you don't have like your own doctrine or like your own form or set of beliefs. You know, you take people's words for it, especially your parents, because like that's a role model in your life. That's somebody you trust. But yeah, like once you start to get to that later age, it's funny. So when I really like came to Christ in middle school was when my parents put me in a private Christian school, switching from public school, which was also partially my choice. I wanted to go there. Yeah. It was kind of like nerve-wracking, obviously, to hit the restart button, though, like on friends. How old were you?
12.
12, okay.
When I got there, like all it took was the first week of school, because like one of our classes was Bible class. Like you go to like, learn about the Bible, and I was like, this is weird. Like I'm in school, this isn't church. And it's funny because when I went, I just noticed, I was like, everybody has something different here than, like, everybody has something I don't, you know? And it's like, I believed, but they still had something. And obviously, like, looking back on it, that was Christ. Like, you know, his light will shine through, you know, his disciples, his people. And it was evident. And I told my dad, like, one night I was like, hey, like, I want to actually, like, accept Christ. And that's when I did.
Wow.
In middle school. And it only took a week just to be around, like, you know, constantly being around the presence of God.
Yeah, that's a perfect example of, like, people leading by example.
Right.
Because you could tell, like, something was different.
For sure.
Because, like, you knew the wisdom, but you didn't know the faith. I want to talk, like, growing up, like, around the church and everything. Because you seem to, like, grow up, like, after, like, when you started to go at 12 in the school, you started to, like, grow up more, like, being around people who had Christ in their heart.
Right.
And everything. Like, what was the changes that you were, like, witnessing in your life versus before?
So, I accepted Christ, and I just noticed, like, I guess you could say, like, more comfort, like, kind of knowing, like, I had a purpose to be here, not just, like, I was doing this thing we call life, just kind of, like, walking around and, like, taking it day by day and, like, oh, what does tomorrow have for me? Like, oh, well. Feeling like I had more purpose, like more comfort, knowing I had somebody like watching my back. And I feel like it didn't, like, I feel like my faith stayed pretty level when I accepted Christ, like throughout the years. Going into my sophomore year of high school, I switched from that private school. So I went all throughout middle school, and then I did my freshman year there. And then sophomore year, I went to a public school, mainly for sports. But also that the old school was very small and tight. It was like 30 of us in my grade. So I was like, ooh, going from like 30 people to like 30,000 in college might be too big of a change.
I can't even imagine that. Like, especially like in a school where like public school versus like going to a Christian school. That's a huge transition.
Oh yeah.
Like you're around so many. I remember in high school, my grade had to have at least a bit over 1,000 kids in it. Yeah. Like that's the size of a...
It's wild.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, no, like my entire middle school was like 100 kids.
Yeah.
And then my grade sophomore year was like 600. Yeah. So it's like it multiplied by 6 in my grade, not the school. Yeah. So, I mean, I went to a public school that was 2,500 kids. And it's funny. It's like in the beginning in middle school, I like saw like Christ throughout people, but honestly, as I went through that school, it almost started to fade. Like I wouldn't say in me, but like in others.
Yeah. These guys maybe were comfortable.
Yeah, I don't really know what it was. I don't know if it's like the stereotype you get people that like, oh, they go to a private Christian school, like they have money, like do they actually like love God? You know, like that's the stereotype people put on people. But it's like when you go to public school and find that niche group of people that are Christians that are like sold out for Jesus, it's like I saw their faith way more than at, you know, the school where I was supposed to just be like fully faith-based. Yeah. And it was kind of wild to see that because I wasn't expecting that at all. You know, I was expecting like the normal things like, oh, you're going to public school. It's going to be like lots of cursing and drugs and drinking and all, like, and obviously that's in there. Yeah. You know, you're never going to get out of that world at anywhere, you know, that's going to follow you. But it was really cool to see like those people like have their own faith in that. Honestly, I think like getting into my senior year and then obviously going off to college, like kind of grew my faith.
So your transition going into college, like how was that?
It was definitely an experience. So it's actually kind of crazy to think about it. I tell this, I'm a youth leader at Victory, as you know, and I tell my youth students this. I went to college at FAU freshman year, and it's like the first thing I did was like freedom. I'm in college, like I'm ready to like go party and hit up the clubs and go to Fort Lauderdale and like do all the stupid stuff college kids do. Yeah. And so that's what I did. And like the first few weeks of college, I was out there partying, doing whatever, doing who knows what. And one night I was at a club. It was like 2 weeks into school. So like very, very new to like college. Yeah. And I was just kind of like, what am I doing? Like, it like kind of hit me. Like, nobody asked me a question or like, you know, like I didn't like get some like come to Jesus moment where somebody was like, hey, do you go to church like randomly at a club, you know? And I was just like, what am I doing out here? Like, how is this filling me up? If it's filling me up, why do I need to keep coming back?
See, that's cool because like usually it takes most kids a year or two to get tired of that stuff.
Right.
It took you 2 weeks.
Took me 2 weeks.
Because you had God in your heart already.
Right. So like it was wild. And like my senior year I got baptized, which is a whole nother story. I got baptized as a kid, but I ended up like coming to my own conclusion that didn't count as baptism. So I ended up getting rebaptized. Yeah. But got all that done and I was really growing in my faith senior year, and then I hit this wall, and I'm with my girlfriend at the time, who's my fiance now.
Praise God.
Brittany.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And we like it's like the day after or something, and I was like, it's like, man, like I don't know like why we're like it wasn't filling her up. She didn't enjoy it. I didn't enjoy it. I was like, what are we doing? And my brother went to FAU, and he's like 7-8 years older than me. And I was like, hey, like my brother went to a church like we should like called Victory. Like, and I had been a couple times. I was like, let's go try it out. So
did he go to Victory as well? Oh,
yeah,
cool.
He went to Victory. So like I already knew a church over here.
Yeah.
And we did we started doing RUF at FAU, which is Reformed University Fellowships, like a Christian club.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so that's where we met JP and Riley.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
the connections.
Yeah. But so we start going to Victory, and then like it's just like we never went back. Didn't go back to Victory. Never went back to like, you know, the old ways of life. It's like we just found what was way more important, and we are so much more invested in that, and like we've never turned back since.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Wow. Like showing how like your faith like your faith allowed you to like move past all the worldly things, even though like you were seeing everyone around you like do the same thing, go out partying, drinking, whatever. Like you were just like, dang, I'm not being filled up.
No, yeah.
Like not being filled up, you could feel that emptiness almost when you're distant from God.
For sure.
Mm-hmm. How would you like? What advice would you give to like people who maybe aren't in the faith or have grown distant from God? Like, what would you like say to them?
Like that fully aren't in the faith, like,
or like it could be like in their faith, distant from their faith.
Yeah, I'd say I'd just say like find a good group of people that like are sold out for Jesus. Find a church, find a young adults group, whatever age you are. Find some sort of small group, because church on Sunday isn't enough for the faith. And just like stay rooted, like grow. Be in the word, pray. Like sometimes it feels like God isn't there, but like just stay rooted, know that he is there. Like, you know, we're in the season of Advent, you know, which means like, you know, God's like still here, even though he's not working. You know, there was that 400-year period before Jesus, during all the prophecies, where like God was nowhere to be found, but he was still working. It's like, even if it feels like he's not there, he's still there. So just like find a good group and stay rooted in it.
Yeah, no, it's good to, I want to emphasize on that. Like, even when he's not there, or you don't feel like he's there, he's still there. And like, he could be preparing you right now in this season of really nothing, but he's preparing you for your next season. Because like there's some type of like intimacy that we need to have with God. And if we don't take the time to go on our own and like get to know God for our own, we're not going to be able to act like fully walk in our faith.
Right.
Because there's not really a relationship.
Yeah, that's good.
Did you didn't do freedom, did you?
I did not do freedom. Not yet.
Do you want to?
I do.
Yeah. I think everyone should do it.
I would love, sadly it didn't work with my schedule. This semester being in college with like classes and being a youth leader and like all the crazy things, but next semester is going to be a little lighter. So hopefully.
When do you graduate?
I should graduate next December.
Next December? Nice. What do you plan on doing?
Selling life insurance.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't think I'm really going to use my degree. I'm kind of here because it's paid for. But it brought me lots of things, you know. Boca brought me way closer to God, even in a community that's like 97% unchurched.
I think that statistic has changed.
I think so.
I think maybe 95%.
Maybe. It's growing. Every number counts.
Yeah. No, I want to check out other churches.
Yeah.
And see, like, I'm staying at Victory.
Right.
But I want to, like, check out, like, there's Coastal, Shell Journey Church.
Radiant City.
Where's that? Radiant City?
Yeah, it's like Boca Deerfield. Yeah, so my roommate is on the football team, and I think every football team, for the most part, has like a team pastor. Mm-hmm. And it actually used to be Pastor Don when Lane Kiffin was our coach. But now it's the pastor at Radiant City, and I'd never heard of him. Mm-hmm. But my roommate started like checking them out, and they just have one service, but it's a decent congregation. Like I think a little over like 150 people, and I think they're more in Deerfield. So, but it sounds like they're growing. Mm-hmm. So
yeah,
it's good.
Oh, cool! I'd never heard of that.
Yeah.
But like taking the time like for intimacy with him, because like we have a great community, and everyone is so like. Everyone's like family with each other. Yeah. Personally, for me, I feel like I've gotten like a bit comfortable, which is good. Like I'm comfortable with everyone at church, but at the same time, like I want to dive deeper in intimacy, like going to like other churches, like seeing like other sermons, whatever it is, like anything to grow like closer with God. Yeah, I guess.
For sure.
But yeah, like what would you say about like having intimacy?
I don't know if I've ever been asked that. That's interesting. I would say like being intentional with like your time, because God's intentional with his time. Yeah. So I'd say like to be more intimate with God, I think it's like, you know, focus on those little things, just like, you know, reading your word, prayer, like all these things. And what am I trying to get at here? I lost it. Like it sounds silly, but almost like count your blessings. Like I feel like that's something that people shy away from, that like can help you like grow more intimate like with God and grow closer with God. It's like we don't realize something, like how good we've got it, until it's gone. Yeah. And it can be so little. Like imagine just like hitting 2 red lights in a row. It's like, oh my gosh, like it's not green. Like you're already mad. And it's like something so little. It's like if you count your blessings and like see what God has done for you, like just in the nick of time, like I kind of said, like with this job opportunity I was presented with, like it's like, I feel like I've grown so much more like intimate and closer with God through things like that. Like the example was, we had our legacy offering at church, and I had like a number set on my heart, but I also had another number that was much larger that I was like, I don't think it's that one.
I don't know what it is with that. Like, I think everyone has gone through this in some type of way. Like you have a number set, and then there's the thing in the back of your head. It's like, no, do this number. Yeah. It's like, dang, that happened to me a year ago too.
It's funny. So it's like, you know, it's like, I like what Pastor Donnie said. He's like, well, if the number is bigger, that's not like the devil telling you to like, you know, that's not something bad. And like right before like we gave the offering, I doubled my number, which was the bigger number. And like financially, like where I'm at, like right now, not working a ton, it was like, been a bit of a struggle for me. But I was like, you know, I'm going to trust like God has more for this. Yeah. Than I do. So I gave a lot more. I doubled my number, and then like just a couple of days later, I've been presented with this great job opportunity that could like definitely benefit me and my soon-to-be wife like financially. So it's just like a blessing in disguise. I was like, well, God had it all worked out the whole time. Yeah, he just kind of needed to see where my heart was. Yeah. And I guess I'd say that's another way like of being more like being able to be more intimate with God is like, you know, where are you prioritizing God? It's like tithing. Like I just started tithing like early this year after Pastor Donnie's tithe sermon. Yeah. And it's like, it's been a huge step in my faith. And like, I've seen like the fruit from it tremendously. Like you really start to see the fruits of your labor when, you know, you just give it all to God.
Yeah. It's like not idolizing those things or getting out of the habit of idolizing those things just lifts off a heavy burden. Yeah. And like knowing that like you could put your trust in Jesus, because we can go work, get money, like do whatever, do the 9 to 5.
Yeah.
But if we put our trust in Jesus, then He's gonna bless us with those things.
Right.
Like go to the Creator to get the things that I can't pronounce that, but like you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure, I see what you're saying.
Mm-hmm. Like
yeah.
he's gotta come first in that type of way.
Yeah.
So you're gonna be a husband.
I am.
Like, what's your thoughts?
It's pretty wild. I didn't see myself proposing at 19 and getting married at 21, very young. Mm-hmm. Especially like, high school sweetheart. Like that's rare.
That's big.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But, man, I'm thrilled. It's wild. I was like, I didn't see any more point in like waiting.
Yeah.
Me and Brittany had been, obviously talking about it a lot, praying about it, but yeah, I'm super excited.
Mm-hmm. How long have you guys been together?
Coming up on 4.5 years.
Wow.
So yeah,
that's
long
awesome.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's got a crazy story too.
Yeah, I'm gonna have her on. I'm gonna have both of you on.
Okay.
Yeah, after you guys get married.
Okay. For sure.
Wedding podcast.
That's fire.
You like golfing, right?
Disc golf.
Yeah. Disc golf?
Disc golf.
Just golf.
Yeah.
Nothing else? You play basketball.
I play basketball.
Yeah.
I play table tennis.
Okay.
And I play video games.
Yeah. So what is that? I hear you all the time, but don't you play with Nate?
I play with Nate sometimes.
Yeah, I hear him screaming.
Yep.
Trent, what are you doing? Stop.
Yeah, we play Rocket League together sometimes.
When did you start playing those?
I started playing disc golf January of this year, so I'm almost coming up on my first full year. Mm-hmm. Table tennis, I've kind of taken a break from, but I was like playing competitively in tournaments for a while. For about a year. Mm-hmm. And then basketball, I've just played my whole life. That's kind of been
Were you on the teams?
Basketball team? Yes. Yeah. They didn't have like any of the other sports like teams in high school, but I'll start playing disc golf tournaments in January actually this year.
You start actually going to tournaments?
Yep.
Oh, that's going to be fun.
I've got a sponsor.
What is it?
Cool. Freedom Institute of Naples.
Okay.
Yep.
That's fire.
So it's cool. Got a jersey and all the stuff. Yeah, I'm excited.
I'm gonna hit you with this hard question. You take time to think about it. So,
okay.
What's your thoughts about like idolization?
Idolization.
Yeah.
It's bad.
Yeah. What's so bad about it?
I mean, you're putting anything that's worldly before God. Mm-hmm. So it's like it can be. As simple as, video games, sports, money, like the need for stuff.
Yeah.
It can be a person, it could be a figure, a famous person that you follow, social media.
Yeah.
And if that is like consuming, I wouldn't say consuming more of your time than God, because like obviously we're not like in the Word when we wake up till we go to sleep.
Right.
There are things we do throughout the day that God calls us to do. God like calls us to partake in joy that like He's given us, which can be those things that I just listed. It's just like where are they ranked in like your importance?
Yeah. I asked this because like idolization is such a tricky scheme from the enemy. Mm-hmm. It's such a tricky scheme. Like it could be like the little things that like we think that aren't negatively like affecting us.
Yeah.
But like there's something about worldly idolization versus godly idolization, because in the world you don't realize that you're idolizing half of the things that you do idolize, but once you come to Christ and you realize that you're idolizing those things and you continue to do it, there's like a fine line in between those things.
For sure.
For me, it was big like for like my podcast too. Mm-hmm. Like and freedom also, because one, with my podcast, I started the numbers were getting to me, and I was like, okay, like I need to stop. Like I took a break. I didn't post for a minute, and I was like, I need to get right and like make sure that like this is for God and not for my pleasure.
Right.
And putting God first with this too. With the Freedom Group, I realized I was idolizing the conference itself instead of Jesus.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, that can happen.
And once I realized that, I was like, dang. Because there's so many people like hyping up the conference, being like, yo, you're going to go through this, go through that. And I'm like, I just want to go for it on my own and like check it out. But then I realized like, I'm like, all right, I need to stop, like actually like put Jesus first. So like in those things, going back to like, you know, when you were in college, like you realize that you were idolizing those things for like a minute. Yeah. And you pushed away from it. Yeah. And you're like, no, I don't need that.
Yeah. It's crazy. Like you can, I love how you brought up the Freedom Conference, because this is like something Christians don't like to talk about, or like some people like don't even accept, like even though like, you know, they like deep down they know it's true, they just like don't want to accept it. Yeah. It's like you can idolize church. You can idolize the building. Yeah. You know, it's not church isn't a building. It's like where two or more are gathered.
Yeah, when you tell people, oh no, the church is the people. They're like, right. What do you mean?
Right.
It's literally funny. A building.
Yeah, it's like me and my fiance are getting married at this place called the White Rose, and it's a beautiful venue, and it's not a church, and we have like people in the family are like, you're not getting married at a church, aren't you Christians? I'm like, the church will be there, like, like they'll be there, trust me. They're like, what do you mean? And like so it's kind of funny, but yeah, like people can idolize anything. Like I can idolize youth group, like as a youth leader, like I can be like, oh, like I got to make sure youth is like perfect, or like I'm putting, you know, like the youth students before God, or like, you know, you can idolize like your wife, like anything, your husband, wife, whatever it is. And it's just like it's like you said, it's like a scheme almost, because it's like you get caught up in something that like you're numb to, because it seems normal to like be doing these things, but like you're not realizing like what's actually going on here. You know? Yeah.
It's a hard thing too, because once you realize you're idolizing that thing, like replacing that with Jesus sounds easy, right? But it can be difficult too.
For sure.
Like just knowing that like what I'm doing is wrong, it's not pleasing God, and like some things need to change. And like that's exactly where like repenting comes in, because it's like, you know, it's not just saying I'm sorry God, I won't do it again. Actually changing from your actions and like, you know, working towards them. Like that's what it actually is.
Yeah. I think it also really just comes down to like where your heart is. It's like, you know, reading your Bible can't be like a check on the list. You can be like, oh, read a chapter today. Yeah. Done with that.
Shouldn't feel like I have to.
Right. It's like, why are you doing what you're doing? Do you know why you're doing what you're doing? And like, is it pleasing to God? Like, is it what's the word I'm looking for? Like, is it something, I guess it just to dumb it down, it'd be like, is it something he would want you to be doing? And is he realizing like that your heart's in the right spot? Like, or I guess not him realizing it. Are you realizing that your heart's in the right spot?
You want to talk about the woman in the well?
No. Is there any story in the Bible that is, I guess, that sticks out to you that like has played a big part in your faith?
Oh. Probably
like branch out on it.
Yeah, probably Jonah. I think like Jonah in the whale. So for me, that story, Jonah didn't want to go to wherever God wanted him to go. I forgot the place where it was called.
Do you remember either?
Yeah, anyways. But like how he was in the whale for 3 days, like Jonah didn't listen to God, and he was like, I don't want to go there, like please don't make me go there, but God wanted him to go there. And so since those 3 days that when he was in the whale, that took time for him to like understand, one, like, you know, like God's wrath when you like don't listen to him, too, and two, like understanding that like God put him there for him to look into himself and understand, like, you know, what's big and like, you know, what he needs from him. That to me, like, it reminds me a lot of understanding that, like you said, there's going to be times when we're going to be in a season of like nothing, but in those moments, those are the times when we should like try to come to God like as much as we can and try to like have our full faith into him, because even when things don't always need to happen. Right. So like when you're in those times when things don't happen, still continue to praise God and have faith that he's going to make things happen too.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a story.
Sweet.
Yeah. But, all right. The woman in the well.
Yeah. So I really wanted to talk about the woman in the well because that's I'd say one of the stories that really sticks with me. That's played a big part in my faith. Do you know pretty much the gist of the story?
Yeah.
I just think it's crazy. So like, if you really like break it down and dive into it, it's crazy. So when the story starts, obviously Jesus meets the woman, at the well, you know, and it's funny right there when he meets her and they start talking, there were 3 laws that were broken. A Jew was talking to a Samaritan, a man was talking to a woman outside of the house, and a woman was out like in public at noon. All 3 things that weren't allowed to happen. And it's like, it just shows like, one, that shows like, dang, that's crazy. Like Jesus just be rolling up on people, you know? Like he's like, I'm about to change the law.
He's like, y'all good?
And it also like that first part really sticks to me because it's like, if you just read it over like, oh, Jesus like approaches her, it's like, okay. But if you really look into like those things that happen, it's like, no, I feel like that's on a deeper meaning of like, Jesus wants us to go out to everyone, like bring in like the worst, quote unquote, that like you can think of or whatever, or like go out to those people that are doing the crazy things. And it's like, you know, people are like, oh, how could somebody be doing X, Y, Z? And it's like, well, they didn't sign up for this.
Yeah.
Like, you know, they didn't sign up for what we signed up for. So like, we're judging them on like a lifestyle they didn't sign up to be a part of. And it's like, how much better does that make us?
Yeah. I want to emphasize that too. Like, I was reading this thing and like it's so true that like how I was saying Abraham was too old, Jacob lied, Joseph was abused, Moses was a murderer and couldn't talk, Gideon was afraid. Like all of these things, these biblical like you know, people, God used them no matter like their flaws, like what they were doing.
For sure. Yeah. And then like to keep going off of the story, it's like when she eventually like gets saved, like as the story goes on, you know, she initially went to the well, you know, what people go to the well for water.
Yeah.
And it's funny if you notice in I believe it's in Matthew, you realize she leaves her jar when she gets saved, right? So she leaves her jar, she leaves what she came for because she got something so much greater, you know, out of it. And not only does she leave, but she runs into the town and starts evangelizing. And the only way she could be able to do that is because she was a completely different person.
Yeah.
Which just like hits me so hard. It's like her old self died instantly, like snap of a finger, like Jesus saved her. And it's like she was a whole new creation.
Yeah.
She left what she was coming for. She knew it didn't matter. You know, the earthly thing didn't matter, the fleshly desire, whatever it was. And immediately started preaching the gospel, which was definitely illegal for women to do. Yeah. You know, especially to who knows she was talking to. Like, women can speak at first, and then like preaching about this guy everybody hates.
Guys, I've received the Holy Spirit.
Right?
Jesus is in my heart.
And it's just wild. And I think that's played such a big part in my faith, like just in everyday life, like being able to like be a billboard for Jesus, like wearing his stuff, like wearing Christian clothes or posting on social media about it. Like you start to realize like who is like really there for you and who is like, oh, nah, I'm gonna dip out. Like this guy's weird. Yeah. You know? And I think that just hit because like it just shows what's way more important.
No, yeah, 100%. That's like having the understanding, like receiving Jesus in your heart is gonna completely change you. For like other people, it might be harder, but like going right after and immediately just like preaching the word, being like, as Jesus is real, like that's when you know, like, you know, the Holy Spirit is like in you, because you don't care anymore.
For sure.
You start to like care less about like what people think about you, and the only thing that you really do care about is as long as Jesus is in your heart.
Right.
And like, no, yeah, that's a beautiful story.
Yeah. And I also think like it comes to, I think another cool thing to hit on is like, obviously when you have Jesus, like, and you start to really like see God's presence, you know, more and more.
Yeah.
But I think it's really key to know the difference between God's omnipresence and God's manifest presence.
Emphasize that.
So like God's omnipresence is like God is omnipresent. God is everywhere at all times. So like when people think of like God's presence, they normally like think of that like, oh, God's like always here. God's always with me. Like I always have the presence of God. But God's manifest presence is like when the people come together are praising God, and like God's manifest presence, literally, like there's no other way to, I guess, describe it, like then enters in, and like then you're in God's manifest presence, and it's so much different than like being in just God's omnipresence.
So like that verse when it says like when two or more are gathered, like he's in the midst.
Yeah. Like when two or more are gathered, there's like the church.
Yeah.
And it's like that's when you can really experience like God's presence, God's manifest presence, as opposed to like, you know, just being in God's presence, if that makes sense.
No, yeah, it does.
Yeah.
It's like
it's confusing because it's the same
yeah.
word, but
but it's really all about the community.
Yeah.
Like iron sharpening iron, like building each other up, and like just being able to be with others who share the same like heart and faith as you. Like that that's it's impactful and it's huge.
Yeah. So. And I think that's also what brings others like to God, like kind of like what happened with me, like just seeing like the difference in other people. Like I think that's so huge for like people who are newer to the faith or newer to church, like why I was emphasizing earlier, like get plugged in, stay rooted, like you'll really kind of like start to see God. And that kind of ties into one of my favorite verses, which is 2 Corinthians 2:15, which is, for we are the aroma of Christ to those who are saved and to those who are sinners. Sinners. Yeah, I think that's right. But that verse has always hit me because like we are the aroma. Oh, like we are God, like to others. Like you might be the only Jesus somebody gets.
Yeah,
you know?
No, for sure. Like I used to be confused when like they'd call like the word the living word, because I'd be like, it's just a book. Like how is it alive? But like
it's fair.
It's crazy because when you actually take time to read the word, spend time with God, the word you start to become the word. We start to become more like Jesus.
Yeah.
And that's what it is, being the living word, being the living testimony and example of Jesus.
Yeah. That's so funny you actually said that, because I'm in 2 Peter, and last night I read something really good that is literally tying into what you just said. 1 Peter 1:21. For no prophecy was ever produced by the will of man, but men spoke from God as they were carried along by the Holy Spirit. It's like nothing we ever read, it's like basically what this is describing, nothing we ever read and are comprehending is produced by man. Like what we're comprehending, what's sticking out to us when it's like, wow, God, you really spoke to me in your word, is coming from the Holy Spirit. And like that's why it's called the living word, which I just thought was so cool, because like, you know, like I understood what it meant by like, oh, it's like it's the living word, like God speaks to you through it. But like when I read that last night, I was like, wow, like that's really cool how it's just like what I'm reading and what I'm getting out of this when I'm like, oh, hey, I gotta like call my dad or call my brother and be like, oh, look how God spoke to me like through what I just read. It's like, no, I didn't really read that. It's like God kind of read it to me. You know, like I read it, but God read it to me, and like that's when it like, you know, it hit. And yeah, that's just really cool how it works. And I just don't think it's like you said, like you didn't understand it. Like it's something you can't understand until you experience it.
So the veil is lifted.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. Good.
That's it.
But thank you for coming on.
For sure. Thanks for having me.
Sharing this. We'll have another future episode too. Soon. I'm excited for that.
For sure.
But thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for taking time out of the day to watch this. Pray that, you know, Jesus keeps on working in your life, and remember that he wants a relationship with you. So we'll see you guys next time. Take it easy. Goodbye.
Peace.